as workers celebrate the recent announcement by the federal government of Nigeria regarding an increase in salaries. This move comes as a welcome development for workers who have long advocated for better wages to cope with the rising costs of living. In a recent address, President Bola Tinubu announced a significant increase in the minimum wage from 25% to 35% for workers on the remaining 6 consolidated salary structures, citing the need to improve their standard of living for workers and their families. While the increase in salary is a positive step, challenges still remain, particularly in sectors where workers are underpaid or face exploitation.
Increasing salary is a welcome idea, but it has to go to the grassroots. What I mean by the grassroots, it should make sure that all the goods we are buying in the market comes down. Because if that one is not done, whatever increment done on the salary will be useless.
There's crisis in the country. People are struggling, people are suffering day and night and all. You understand? He can't just wake up in the night and say he has increased the worker salary and all. I am a worker too. I have brothers and sisters who are workers too. You understand? They must confirm that actually they've increased their salary. Let's see the pay rise. You understand? We'll see them. You know, you increase somebody's salary, there will be changes in that person. You understand? So we must see those things first.
Welcome back. Now, the organized labor has issued a stern warning to the federal government regarding the implementation of the new national minimum wage for workers. According to their ultimatum, the government must finalize the process by the end of May. Otherwise, there will be no industrial peace in Nigeria. Interesting. The president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Mr. Joe Ajero, made this demand during the 2024 edition of the International Workers' Day in Abuja. The labor movement has placed a demand of 615,000 naira as the new minimum wage, waiting the offer from social partners. Additionally, they propose that the new act should have a 2-year lifespan with automatic adjustment in wages whenever inflation exceeds 7.5%. Furthermore, the union insists that every employer with up to 5 workers should adhere to the new minimum wage to ensure compliance. They call for strengthening monitoring mechanism and, of course, penalties for non-compliant state government. Still with us in the studio is Dr. Gani Oluwashola. I saw him chuckling while I was trying to get that out there. And of course, yes, virtually, we have also Mr. Paul Ataigu. Now, I'm going to come to you, Mr. Gani, Dr. Gani, I beg your pardon. 615,000 naira. How realistic is this? That's on one part. The labor is presently in a committee with the federal government to agree on a particular living wage. The government is yet to still pay, well, some states now are still struggling to pay the 35,000 naira proposed minimum wage. Just yesterday, federal government went upboard to increase from 25 to 35%. Bringing all of this together, how do we, or what do we do from here on? Nigerians particularly.
You see, let me say, they didn't increase it from 25. They give it a bench, a threshold. It should be between 25% and 35%. It can't exceed 35%, right, and it can be lower than 25%. So if somebody is earning 30,000 naira, 25% increase is not even up to 25%, because if it's 100% increase, it will be 60,000 naira. So if you now say 25% increase, it's just like dividing 30,000 divided by 4, right? So indirectly, it's just like the person's earning will not be more than 36,000. So, and Edo State governor says that, oh, we are big boys here. We are giving you 70,000. Lagos State also come and say, we've been paying this for a while. We pay beyond this, right? This is it. And these are the people telling the federal government that you can do better, right? It's good for them to increase. I think a minimum wage, a reasonable one, should not be less than 100. 100, right? 70 to 100 makes reasonability, right? Because talking about the inflation rate, talking about the market stuff, a 615,000, it's unreasonable for me.
Why do you think so? I mean, sorry. You see government officials going in different convoys.
You see, they also know off the shelf now that what they spend is not their salary at the government office. What they collect is not their salary. They had a lot of juicy.
So if the workers are seeing this and then still proposing this particular figure, then they should be able to say, yes, what we're spending and what
I can tell you for free, until we have a system in Nigeria, let them give them 1 million. They will still take the PR. It's just, you know, when something is part and parcel of you, you understand? You are not even concerned about the salary. You are just concerned about what you have in stake for everything that comes across your table. But until we have a system in place, one of the things that is checkmating policemen now is because of the social media. You quickly snap them and all those stuff. So that is a form of mini system. Anywhere in the world, they have the tendency of misbehaving. But one thing that throws things out is a system in place. You talk about China, they have system in place, right? But when we now talk about 615,000 as minimum wage, right? Even when he said an average employee that have more than 5 staff, how will a private organization basis, even the boss, is he earning 615,000? Right. Depending on the organization. Right. And another thing you should also know is that we must be careful. The more the money we throw out into the system, the more our inflation will rise. And which is not good for the economy. Then it will now become, God forbid, we get into a system, what's the name of this country? That's when they are going to buy a loaf of bread, they need a truck, right? To be able, because their money is useless. You don't get it. And because if we have so much money, it's even showing us that the value of our currency is going downward. You don't get it. A simple money should be able to take care of all your facilities. I can tell you for free, if the government has sent to 615,000 per minimum wage, I can tell you for free, you just discovered that a loaf of bread can just jump up to 20,000.
But Osifo Festus told us that increment or this minimum wage now we're talking about, it will not affect inflation. That was what he said. And also, anyway, I'll get back to you, but let's get...
Before you talk, you know, part of my work is economics.
Okay.
Right. You see, the more money you release to the economy, that is what drives inflation. It's just natural. For now, you might not have the capacity to buy something, but once your salary increase, those things that have been begging for your attention that you technically ignore, you will now begin. And it's not only you, there are some people that also that thing is begging for their attention. And when much more money is running after few goods, if you are a seller, you automatically jack up the price of that goods for the highest bidder.
No problem.
Do you get it? And indirectly, it will now affect our economy. And because it will definitely reduce the value of that money, then in the long run, the 615,000 that I think is normal, when you now push it back to where we are coming from, you now discover that the value is even more or less like 100,000.
Okay, now to Mr. Chris Paul Otaigbe. We're looking at the minimum wage being a big challenge here in Nigeria with the federal government promising to have a new minimum wage 1st of May. Remember, the old one was due since April. All right, now my question is this. The NLC chairman came up to talk about the new minimum wage they are proposing for the federal government to be 615,000 naira. He broke it down in this way. He says accommodation will be 40,000, electricity 20,000, and then he also talked about utility to be 10,000 naira. He mentioned kerosene and gas fare to be 25,000 to 35,000. And also look at family of 6 now spending 9,000 naira every day on meal, which if you check it out for 30 days or having approximately 270,000 or thereabout. And also medical to consume 50,000 naira per month. And education, 50,000. Clothing, 20,000. These actually happen to be the way he broke them down for just the month, if we're talking about the 615,000 now. And a lot of people are saying that this money in question is too much. He also made mention of the increment of the 615,000 if inflation increased by 7.5%. Now, do you think that Joe Ajero is not really saying what he should be saying at this time, or do you actually accept this is proposal of 615,000 naira to be the new minimum wage?
Well, today, what it's saying, as illustrated by my colleague there, might sound out of board, may sound unreasonable, but in value, first of all, I beg to say that when we were growing up, salary for our parents, my father was earning about, was it 200 naira at the time. And that with that 200 naira, we could pay our school fees, we could feed, we could pay house rent, health was taken care of at 200 naira per month. That's the value. That value, that thing, that value that money purchased is what is 615,000 would effectively take care of today. So, to that extent, he may be correct. But at the level of what I call true common sense, it doesn't make sense. I'm sorry to say this about Ajero, it doesn't make sense at this time. What labor should be fighting for is not wage increase. The labor of those days, of Shomali, of one other guy before him, they were fighting for the good of the people. They were fighting for the improvement of standard of living for Nigeria. Generally, if you don't fight for Nigeria, you won't be able to fight for yourself. Meanwhile, again, how many people are in the labor force? About 73 or 75 million. If that statistics is correct, because if you look at the current situation of Nigeria now, that statistics is in question, is in doubt. We can't be up to 75 million, but I don't know whether we are even up to half. But well, statistician is their side, so they can say throw any figure at us as they like. But what the point here is that 73 million people, let's even go with Ajero's calculation, which is okay by value. But if about a certain portion of the population is earning 615,000 a month, what about the rest? Over 200 million people. How do they survive? Because we are going to the same market, the other guy who is unemployed is going to struggle to go to. We are going to the same market where the person paying himself, working for himself, is going to. Maybe for that one, they have business. So how do we balance that out? So you see, all these things, they are related, they are connected, they are interconnected, they are interdependent of each other. So he's saying 615, in fact, it doesn't make sense. As far as I'm concerned, considering the context we found ourselves in this country, it doesn't make sense. What Ajero should be fighting for? That's why he himself and his group don't make sense to Nigerians. They say, oh, we are giving ultimatum. Everybody, they'll put their nose somewhere. Or they call strike. They say, hey, when they call them now, they'll settle them, they'll go. So, in fact, I'm sorry, he used to be tougher than this. He used to be a tougher guy than this. I don't know what happened to him, where he become part of them establishment. So I don't, in as much as I believe that the value he's asking for with this figure makes sense, the figure itself within this period, this context doesn't make sense. And you would still have achieved that value where the cost of living will reduce or the standard of living will become manageable to you as a worker if you insist, you fight the government down, reduce the price of fuel, reduce the price of this. Things that would impact on the life and the general economy of the country. If you don't fight for that, just fighting for your salary increase makes you look stupid. I think I've told this guy privately in conversation. It makes you look stupid. Even though it's making sense with the value he's asking for 250,000. But against the general situation in town, people are just going to look at you. You don't make, what are you talking about, man? Okay, so you are employed now. You want to get 615. We that are not employed, we are in the same place. You say we should go to hell. So for me, it's not making sense. I just
All right.
it's not making sense now.
I'm still going to stay with you. The government yesterday, the federal government yesterday, moved up a bit in the wages from 25 to 35%. Of course, not really particularly pegging it to. It's just like Dr. Ganiu rightly pointed out. It's like putting a standard from 25 to 35% increase in the minimum wage. Now, inflation rate in Nigeria is about 31.7%. Food inflation is also terrible. The cost of living in Nigeria has become outrageous. What do you propose? And of course, we know that the NLC are also in talks with the federal government as looking forward to what should be the new minimum wage. But what do you think practically might be feasible for Nigerians working at this time as wage?
What is feasible, I will tell you. Unfortunately, what is feasible doesn't look, what should be feasible rather, doesn't look sustainable. What is feasible truly for Nigerians right now? Actually, the way you broke it down makes sense now. Family of 9, they would eat 9,000 per day. I mean, that is okay. Look, let's look at it like that. 15,000. Let's look at those who are actually earning that in that bracket. People in oil and gas, for instance, they're living okay, middle class. They are human beings like us. We are human beings like them now. So they are living above the cost of living stress that majority are living under. So let's use them as the example. So it makes sense. If you want, I mean, that's how normal human beings should live, okay? A normal worker should live. So, but the truth of the matter is that once the foundation is bad, you can't build nothing on nothing. Right now, we've scattered everything, so we're almost on nothing now. If you don't stabilize your exchange rate, you don't. Well, two things are killing us in this country: fuel price hike, and the exchange rate. These two things, I keep saying, thankfully, have been linked to one source now. Dangote. Dangote is functioning. It should be saving us $17 billion every month. Every year. So if we are saved $17 billion, cost of living should go down now. People should be able to buy fuel now easily. Then Labour can say, okay, we fought for this. Prices of fuel have gone down. People can buy fuel because Dangote is near us at say 100 naira per liter. I'm coming. And then, okay, dollar, they are the ones. Now they've saved us dollar. So federal government, you have no excuse but to bring the cost of living down. Then any, what do you call it? You can pay even that 30,000, I assure you, will work in that kind of environment. Now, please, that it plays to what I'm talking about, drama and back end, whatever, 25 to 35%. That's just grammar now. Is it not 30,000? 25% of 30,000 is how much? 3 plus 3 plus that's 6 plus 1,005. That's 7,005 plus 30,000. If they make it look 25%, 35% is big. It's a lie now. They are just having 7,500 on 30,000. What does that make? It is a joke. It's a bloody joke. Let's face it. So these are things I'm talking about. You can see how government is playing with your head. 25%, 35%. Oh,
well.
just 7,500.
Oh, well.
At best.
Okay. Well, Dr. Gani, I'm going to come to you while we try to wrap this conversation up. The Labour has given a deadline. In other words, end of May, if there is no increment in the wages, they will ground the economy down. Do you think this is about a right move at this time? Okay. That's one. Sorry. Secondly, on the salary increase, what is the feasible figure that you think, with all of the economic challenges, inflation rising, insecurity all around the place, what is the feasible figure that might just be what Nigerians should be looking at as minimum wage?
Okay, brilliant question. I will agree with, one of the things that Joe Ajero should do, I thought the guy was tough. Because when he came to power, I was also happy because he's one of the strongest guys in Oshiomole's team. That is even more fierce than Oshiomole. And people say, wow, we could have another form of Oshiomole this time, Adam Oshiomole. But it's unfortunate. He has changed, right? And he's unreasonable, right? And the question is, over time, he has not actually shown Nigeria that there are capacity. Because he could say this in the morning, in the afternoon, we are withdrawing. Since he has been in office, he has not actually proved any stunts, right? And when we talk about labor, honestly, it's not about this salary increase. The salary increase is there. But the question is that there's what we call base. We call about the base is a function of anything that comes on it. You fight, indeed, for the fuel to drop. You fight for, you see, this is what a common man is interested. If you said, in economics, said, all things being equal, ceteris paribus. Yeah. So if all these prices are there, and you are asking for increment in salary, they can increase the salary, and all those prices increase again. Then it makes no sense again. But the bottom line is that let's fight and ensure that even a common person that is selling, not everybody is working with the government.
Oh, yes.
We have a lot of market people. We have SMEs. We have people that their shop is not even up to 100,000. How do they cope with the economy? And if some certain level of people, their salary is increased astronomically, and they are going to the same market. The reason why you talk about people in oil and gas industry, there's few structure. It will not affect anything. The only thing is just that they have more money at their disposal and they can travel anywhere in the world. But the question is, an average Nigerian, we are not eager to go to the airport, let alone of traveling now. Let us enjoy staying, be able to make up with the three necessities of life: feeding, clothing, and shelter. You need to pass through some places. You see some people, they don't have any shelter. They sleep under the bridge. Before you know it, at around 8 or 9, you see mosquito nets. They tie it and put it down. At around 5 or 4, they're already away. They've dressed up. They go for their daily activities. How do we take care of these people? So you're talking about 615. These people are not gainfully employed by the federal government or state government. So how will they do with life? So if you are actually a labor person, right, and you're fighting for the people, not only for the people working, all you are just trying to say, you fight the government to stand in for security. You ensure that the fuel come down to 300 naira. Even if the government is going to subsidize it, let him subsidize. You ensure that the electricity tariff, it comes back to less than 66 naira. These are why they say, so even if anybody is earning a 100,000, he knows that he can also save something for the future. Right. And let me also quickly talk about this. We talk about China. China said over 4 decades, right? Over 4 decades, through policy implementation and effective governance, they have lifted over 770 million people out of poverty. Right. India here. And when you look around 1985, China is still one of the developing countries in the same band with Nigeria. And Nigeria looks a bit more good than them. But consciously and consistently, they've improved. They are the second largest economy in the world. They are one of the warehouse of manufacturing in the world. Look at India here. India said between 2005 and 2021, they have succeeded to lift over 440 million people out of poverty.
So is it now? Would you? While you're talking, I was just, trying to think. Is this now to be blamed on the government not having a political will to do it right? And then should the Labour also be talking to that?
Not only political will, policy implementation, right? Value for citizens, making life better. Nigeria, go to Google and say how many people Nigeria have lifted from poverty. Google will tell you that policy assessment. Right. So because Nigeria itself, we have not lifted people. Rather, the world, I think the statistics saying that a lot of people have been plugged more into the poverty rate. Even they call it multi-dimensional. Not only poverty, multi-dimensional poverty. So these are the things. And an individual is larger than life. I can tell you for free, for you to go to get US visa, it's much more easier than getting Indian visa. That is and when you see somebody falling sick now, the first place they will refer you to is India, because they're already developing. And there's a statistics that say that in the next 10 years, if China is not careful, Indian economy will override China. And these people, I can mention those 2 people because they have population challenge like Nigeria. And they use the population for their own advantage, not for their detriment. There was a time that China also closed its border to the world and said that we will produce something in China, we must eat it, and before you know it, they were thought that they're not going to sustain, they're not going to, but they are able to develop. The same thing India is doing. Okay. So Nigeria should look inward and ensure that, even there was a time they said that once you're in a public office, you are not traveling outside the country for certain reasons. So these are things. We should not just be a consuming nation. We should not just use it like a kind of joy and say that, oh, I brought this thing. What have you done to your economy? Okay. Even one of the things they should do, if you are coming to power, it's just like you establishing school and you cannot put your children in that school. That school will not exist. For you coming to power, your children must be schooling in Nigeria. If you're not schooling in Nigeria, you won't be voting.
I had to just consider. Mr. Paul, can we have your concluding thoughts quickly while we wrap up this conversation?
What I want to add is this. When you were talking about giving examples of countries, and like I always say, Putin is like a hero to me, and I love Russia. I've never been there, but I've been reading about them. Now, the Ukraine war, the Russians are volunteering in their hundreds of thousands. Why the Ukrainians are, losing force. But what the point I'm trying to make here? This was a Russia about 20-something years ago when the Soviet Union just broke down. Everything broke down. They were just like Nigeria. Workers were old. Workers were not paid. Living wage was not making sense. But one man came in, repaired everything within a matter of 2 years, and today, sense of nationalism, sense of pride has come into the people to the point that they are willing to go and lay down their lives for their country. That is, we can get there, we will get there, but everything is about leadership. The Labour leadership is faulty on this. The government, of course, that is a career problem on our lives right now. So, but what I'm saying is, these things are not impossible. They are not impossible at all. It's about, when you say will, what is will? It's Nigeria, we are talking about political will. You either do it or you don't do it. Not a matter of will. It's a matter of conscience, logic, rationale, for the people. That's all.
All right. Thank you so very much, Mr. Chris Otaigbe. Well, we've been talking to these two gentlemen on this conversation. And, well, Mr. Chris Paul Otaigbe is the International Chief Correspondent and Project Director Affinity TV based in the UK. And, of course, we also had in the studio with us Dr. Gani Oluwashola, FCTI Managing Partner, KJB Professional Services. Thank you so very much, gentlemen, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll just have to take a quick break. When we return, business would be up next. Stay with us.